Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
How's that for a happy Columbus Day? That was Vice President, current Democratic Party presidential candidate Kamala Harris, wishing that America, quite frankly, had never been discovered by Europeans like Christopher Columbus because of systemic racism or, something. Never mind the fact that the Native American tribes Christopher Columbus came upon were brutal in their application of violence, who waged war upon their Native American neighbors and who were renowned for practicing cannibalism. Now, is that the indigenous people's heritage that Vice President Harris will have us celebrating if she is elected, rather, I would say installed, as the 47th president of the United States in just a few weeks? Columbus has long been viewed as an Italian, and for decades, many Italian Americans have celebrated him as one of their own. But now Columbus is viewed by the Marxists, as the kids today might say, as being, problematic. Never mind the fact that Columbus represented the most heroic aspects of the pioneering spirit that not only drove the colonization of America, but also came to embody the American spirit itself. According to people like Kamala Harris, our possible next president, Columbus was a murderer, tyrant, and scoundrel. Sorry, Italian Americans, you don't get to be proud of Christopher Columbus. But if Christopher Columbus had identified as, let's say Christine Columbus, and if they had come to the New World looking to indoctrinate Native American kids with Drag Queen Story Hour, then Vice President Harris would have a very different view, I would say, of Columbus Day today. Have we gone from celebrating great achievements like discovering the Americas to denigrating those achievements in favor of abject degeneracy and mediocrity? Well, it seems so. And joining us now is Terry Newsome. He is the host of the always informative and eye-opening Behind Enemy Lines podcast, which you can find on Rumble. He's also been at the forefront of the war on wokeness in Chicago and its surrounding suburbs. He's also an Italian American. Terry, it's good to have you here. Look, you found out a lot about how Chicago area schools are celebrating Christopher Columbus Day today, right? And if I said, when I joked, that if he'd been a transvestite, like transgender or whatever, and identified as Christine and blah, 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 that's pretty close to how Chicago students celebrated Columbus Day today, right?
Yeah. And let's keep in mind, Columbus Day wasn't just for Columbus Day, right? It's just so people know. It was first done because for most people don't know this, the biggest lynching in the United States history was 12 Italians in New Orleans. They were accused of killing somebody. They found out it wasn't true, and they all died for nothing, right? So there was all this animosity. The Italians were treated really bad. Even when I grew up in the Southwest Side in the 60s, and my mom said, I had all kinds of stuff said to me about my mother, and even when I was dating a girl in the Irish, I was called names for being Italian, which was kind of weird. So that stuff happened before. So it was to help kind of ease the Italian community in having a day to represent, right? And they are taking that away from us. They're taking away the Italian American Heritage Month, but they're going to talk about Pride Month and how people have sex and the types of sex they want to have, and totally disrespect or disregard anything the Italian American community did.
And speaking of being the descendants of Italian migrants to the United States, you pointed out to us before we started this segment that your ancestor, your grandfather had to sign a statement in order to be in the United States that decried any allegiances to any foreign power at all, correct?
Yes, he had to have a sponsor and a job before he came here too, by the way, and they didn't get
Mhm.
cars, shoes, clothes, healthcare, apartments, all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And he had to attest that he has no allegiances or fidelity to any foreign prince or nation. And at the time of his admission, he's got to be or be a citizen or subject. I'm not an anarchist, and I don't practice polygamy. It's my intention in good faith to become a citizen of the United States of America. Now, could you imagine if that was required of these illegals coming in and all the things that they had to go through back then when my grandfather came here? The left will not allow that to happen, right? And these people are able to
Mm.
come in. And you saw some of the shows that you've done with me in the past, right? As soon as they got off the border from Mexico, they're flashing their gang signs at me, right? So that's a far cry from what my grandparents had to go through.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And look, the illegals that come in, if they made any statements such as what your grandfather had to sign his name to and attest to, they might actually throw them back out. If they said anything about an allegiance to America and not being beholden to another foreign power, they might actually be one of those that would get deported, whereas most of them who are not in our best interests are actually led into the United States, Terry?
Yeah, yeah. My twins are seniors in high school, so they go to Downers Grove Library over here, right? Downers Grove Library claims that they're diverse, they're inclusion, hate has no home here, all this crazy BS, right? That they say, but they're only inclusive if it's something that they want to be inclusive of, right? So my kids go to the library all the time. We're Italian American. There's nothing in that library. There's one book in that library for Columbus Day. There's one book to represent the whole Italian American Heritage Month. Nothing. But when they have Pride Month, oh my God, it's Pride Month, actually 12 months of the year. They paint windows, they have crazy stuff. They had Pride reading to 2-year-old children in the library in Pride Month. They had this transvestite that was going to come and sing Katy Perry songs and play bingo with kids in 6th grade until people like me stopped it, and they brutally attacked me and other parents as saying we hate gay people, which we don't. We don't hate gay people. We just want to have child and age appropriate content in there. But you totally dismiss the heritage of the Italian American community and everything we've done and just threw it out the window because it doesn't fit your political narrative.
Italian American heritage. There's actually a film a documentary that's out that highlights that. Let's take a listen to an excerpt from that film. Watch.
This is America, the greatest nation on earth, where rats have it better than Italian children. If we are to build an empire of hope, we must first conquer New York.
Tell us about this film, Terry, and why it's important to you.
Yeah, it's about Mother Cabrini. So in Chicago, we had Cabrini Green. That was the projects, right? That was for those of you, those were the big projects that had been moved out. But it attests to this one. Matter of fact, I learned so many things myself that I didn't know. Thank God I took my 85-year-old mother there, of how the Italians were treated, how poorly they were treated. They were treated. Even my uncles during World War II. They were treated like dogs and stuff because they were Italians. When I was 3 years old, my mom told me that the people on the first floor duplex house we were in, they moved out because the Italians moved in. When I was first grade, we moved to the suburbs. My mom, they're calling my mom Papoose because she's long hair and stuff. And they're overlooking it because it doesn't fit their political narrative, and they're not inclusive. They're evil people. They're trying to control the narrative. These are the same people, when you ask them if a man can have a baby, they say yes, right? So these people are lying because of their own political narrative to try to get our country divided. And it's frustrating and it angers me because they're totally neglecting our heritage.
And it's not just, though, America. Look, we're doing this segment because of Christopher Columbus Day today, and you brought up to our attention what some Chicago area schools are doing to celebrate, like Drag Queen Story Hour. But it is the Western world at large. In fact, Bill Maher in this soundbite just said that he thinks they deserve a pat on the back for making London, England less white. Let's listen.
Well, first of all, London was like all white.
Yeah, it was.
So can we just celebrate that victory, that we made a place more diverse and
So he literally wants a pat on the back for himself because he feels he's been instrumental in this significant demographic shift in London, England, across the pond, Terry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Here's another example. Today's Columbus Day, right? So I used to march in the
Yeah.
Columbus Day parade playing the drums when I was a kid. They're not
I
allowed
can
to
see
have
that.
they're not allowed to have any high schools. The Chicago schools don't participate in the parade because of this radical leftist crap. They got to come from the suburbs that would allow the kids to be in the parade. That's how crazy it's gotten, and nobody's saying. So thank you. I'm glad you're allowing us to have this platform to share this, because not many media platforms are even talking about this. It gets worse and worse every year. So they eventually want to totally erase it. And that's what they want to do with our statues, our history. This is the Marxist platform that they're trying to push down our throats.
You know, what's interesting to me is that I really wanted to do this segment because I've noticed that even people or entities that would kind of consider themselves center right, probably not hardcore conservatives, but center right. I noticed that when I went to something yesterday in the town that I live in, they're now added in Christopher Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, right? They're moving the goalposts, even though technically they wouldn't say they're on board with a Marxist or a leftist agenda, but yet they're caving in a way to it. Look, Terry, I am so glad your Italian family immigrated here. I think you all make life much more interesting, and definitely the food here in America more interesting, and just make it more fun. Now tell the people where they can see that film that you flagged for us, because that looks like it's beautiful.
Yeah, Cabrini was out a while ago. You just look it up on the internet. It's really not because I'm biased. Just search Cabrini, Mother Cabrini. I went in thinking, okay, I'm going to take my mom to see this thing. I love the movie. It really was. It was a shocker.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, and you gotta look it up.
I will, and it'll be nice to have something that's just kind of, refreshing and heartwarming about our heritage as a whole here in America to watch on this Christopher Columbus Day. So I'll probably watch it tonight. Thank you so much, Terry Newsome. It's good to see you as always.
Thank you.
Remember, only while supplies last. The classic MyPillow is only $14.98 at the moment, $14.98. That's when you use the promo code TRUTH. Go to mypillow.com. Put in the promo code TRUTH to get that special deal, or call the toll-free number you see at the bottom of your screen, 800-944-5396, 800-944-5396. Mike told me he still has some. Don't know how long this inventory will last, so if you need a new classic MyPillow, now's the time. Speaking of time, it's time for Mike Lindell himself, and that's the absolute truth. We'll see you tomorrow.